Welcome back, FUD Nation. Oh, I missed you over the weekend, my fuddy buddies. I'm back now, here to discuss some pressing matters in the crypto community, ranging from the news that the global soccer superpower Juventus is going to be unveiling something even more tantalizing than Cristiano Ronaldo's rock-hard abdominals. They're going to be launching their very own fan token. And then we're going to talk about the kiss of death. And I'm not talking about that morning breath makeout, no. This is something even more deadly. So without further ado, let's get to it. Italian soccer club Juventus looks to launch its very own fan token, introducing cryptocurrency to its 340 million fans globally. We investigate the listings that have been dubbed the kiss of death by savvy Bitcoin investors. Cryptocurrency startup Bitrefill allows you to spend your Bitcoins at many leading retailers across the country. The Winklevoss look to expand their offering overseas. We investigate last week's astronomical price surge on the XRP charts and try to make sense of what caused this push. Charlie Lee offers a fervent defense of Litecoin. Bitcoin mining giant Bitmain partners with the Houston Rockets. 0x announces its bullish move into non-fungible tokens and blockchain collectibles. And Coinbase announces its second headquarters in Portland. We've got all your headlines mixed with some daily market analysis. I'm Elio Trades, and your FUD TV Daily Update starts now. Just diving in here very briefly on the markets, we can see that we have a minor pullback. Bitcoin about 1% in the red. Almost everything in the top 100 is looking like it is showing a small amount of red, but obviously we had a tremendous surge last week, so a bit of pullback is normal. Though to be honest, it's looking quite red for some of these coins. XRP with, a healthy pullback. It's still sitting well above 50 cents, which is a phenomenal bump up from its 25 cents of last week. It's a full 100% up depending on when you got in. And of course, we have a little bit of red across the board. No reason to go too deep into this, as we know that pullbacks are pretty standard after we get a fair amount of bullishness like we saw last week. Obviously, it's hard to say where this is going. I've on this channel predicted many times that we need to go and test a 5K Bitcoin. I'm not so sure that that's going to happen, as the overall chart on Bitcoin is showing higher lows and lower highs. It seems to be a pattern of consolidation where we're seeing that the $5,700 Bitcoin and the $5,900 Bitcoin, we're not quite sure if we're going to touch those levels again. I wouldn't be totally shocked and surprised if it did happen, but at this point, I'm not 100% confident we're going to be going down to those levels again. But it does seem that we still have quite a bit of downward pressure on the Bitcoin price, and that we still haven't seen a catalyst for a tremendous breakout like the Bitcoin ETF, the Bakkt platform, or many other things that we're looking to in the space to create that bullishness. Now, moving over to our lead story out of the day, we have an excerpt from a podcast called Off the Chain Podcast, led by a prominent voice in the cryptocurrency community, Anthony Pompliano, who is interviewing Travis Kling of Ikigai, which is a new hedge fund in the cryptocurrency space. Travis Kling has a history of trading at a very high level institutionally in traditional markets at a hedge fund called Point72, where he was trading hundreds of millions of dollars in his portfolio. He has now moved into cryptocurrency, and he's actually making some really interesting observations about what he calls the quote-unquote kiss of death listing. That's right, the kiss of death listing, as he calls it, is a listing on the Bitmex platform. Now, Bitmex, of course, if you don't know what Bitmex is, allows you to take leveraged futures positions. Now, these leveraged futures positions are very sophisticated instruments, and they can really easily lead to you losing your money, getting liquidated, stopped out, or wrecked, as they say. At any rate, the reason why it's the kiss of death is because essentially you can have tremendous amounts of liquidity, huge players essentially pushing the price in whichever direction they want, or making very rapid calls using high-tech instruments to make these calls. I'm going to run you through exactly how he's explaining this so you can get a sense of exactly why he's calling it the kiss of death. But just understand that what is happening right now on Bitmex is that unless you're just buying and holding and you're doing like a classic hodl, which I truly recommend, not financial advice, but I recommend it. I think that what you're doing if you're trading short-term futures is you're really opening yourself up to exposure to a sort of pro ball, NBA or MLB, whatever you want to say, whatever your favorite pro sport is. You're at the highest level of trading when you're doing that, especially given how much liquidity and how big the players are on Bitmex now. You're really playing head-to-head with some of the biggest boys in the entire playground. Quantitatively, a listing on Bitmex has been the kiss of death year to date. Now there's a ton of liquidity on Bitmex, and you can really express it. Except which I'm glad you brought this up. It's the worst kind of liquidity. Pompliano says why? Travis says because it's liquidity, except there's extremely sophisticated quantitative investors, Wall Street guys. Like those types of folks, they're the best in the business from a quantitative perspective. I don't want to name names, and he goes on to sort of suggest who these people are. He says essentially the way this works is they're pulling market data and essentially order book data down. They call the network 3 times a second, and by calling a network, they're pulling down very minute volume data. They can see where the price gets executed relative to specific volume at that moment, relative to the bid ask, and then they back end the amount of leverage that was put on for the specific trade at that specific moment 3 times a second. Essentially, what is going on here is they're using very complex quantitative tools to understand the entire order book, understand how everyone is balancing their trades at the moment. And then if they want, they can really easily knock over some of the stop losses. When you knock over stop losses, you create liquidations, and it creates what they call short squeezes or long squeezes. You can create dynamic moves in price. Now, this is what's going on sites like Bitmex. So the small little players who make their, very intelligent, they're doing all their quantitative data, they just don't have the ability to pull that much data and then to influence the price in the ways that these bigger players are doing it. And then it's causing these dynamic movements in price. And when you know that you're about to cause that dynamic movement in price, you can bet that you're going to cause it as well and then win off of it. So essentially, they're seeing the order book, they're seeing the game, they're playing the game, they're sort of fixing the next few seconds to minutes of the game, and then they're winning constantly off that game. And this has sort of been likened to the ivy that grows around the tree that ends up killing the tree. It's a very toxic effect on the retail market. But essentially, the retail guys, the retail small players are going to stop playing in this market, and they're going to start giving it up to the bigger players just because they can't really hang. They can't really keep up. They're just going to keep losing. And anyone who knows someone who trades on Bitmex can really sympathize that they've probably gone through this. We're not going to spend a lot more on this, but just understand that all the products, all the coins that have been listed on Bitmex are sort of being influenced in this way. And yes, there will be big dynamic pushes that come with other swells of attention and whatnot. But in these market sort of, idle periods, right now, all of the energy, all of the effort is really going on these derivative sites like Bitmex. That's where all the money's being made. And so obviously right now is a very dangerous time to be trading on Bitmex because you're pretty much swimming in the pool with a bunch of sharks.
Whoa.
We also have word again, as I mentioned, that Juventus is going to be releasing a fan token via Socios, which is a very interesting platform that seems to have really captivated the highest level of the football or soccer world. And by the way, Juventus has in excess of 300 million fans globally, at least 60 million on social media across its channels. So we can see that this could have a dramatic and very immediate effect to bring people into the cryptocurrency world that really weren't aware of it, weren't caring about it, didn't have a reason to interact with it. I think this sort of fan token thing is going to become a huge deal, and it's going to apply to far more than just soccer or football. I think it's going to apply to all kinds of fans. I think people like Drake will release tokens and so on and so forth because it makes sense. There are internal economies. When you really care about Drake, you can buy music, you can buy autograph stuff, limited edition, whatever, concert tickets. There's a reason to own these tokens. Also, if you're not familiar with the Bitrefill site, it's a pretty cool site. It allows you to really convert your Bitcoin into a ton of vouchers for other different retailers like Steam, Amazon, iTunes, Uber, Hotels.com, eBay, Google Play, Sony, PlayStation, Viber, Walmart, Reddit Gold, Xbox Live, Target. The list just goes on. It's a tremendous, between all these retailers, you can pretty much get anything under the sun. So I'd suggest you check it out if you've got cryptocurrency and you're looking to more live and spend in your cryptocurrency world. I've been hearing a lot of people ask recently, how do you really, exist without fiat? And obviously it's going to be difficult to exist 100% without fiat at this point in time, but it's possible if you make some sacrifices. Bitrefill is definitely an interesting intermediary, allowing you to buy gift cards essentially with your cryptocurrency. So that's kind of cool. The Winklevosses are expanding their cryptocurrency exchange Gemini's operations overseas to the UK and to Europe. Obviously, they're very intimately involved in trying to get institutional products out there. So I'm just keeping an eye on any news regarding the Winklevoss twins. I think that they'll play a role, maybe not a big role, but they'll play some role in helping sort of move everything forward over the next 2 years or so. There was also this breakdown on CCN that sort of showed here, I'll put it up on screen, the XRP jump and why it jumped so much. You have this sort of Xrp announcement that Xrp's coming out, and you see the jump sort of from 25 to 35 cents, and then you see a little bit of consolidation, and then you get the announcement of Coil, which is their tipping protocol and their PNC Bank partnership, and you get this huge surge up to 55 cents. You know, I just don't know if I agree that the Coil announcement and the PNC announcement are really big enough to justify yet another pretty much almost 100% jump from the previous jump. It's a huge jump, and then you get a huge FOMO sort of spike up to the 79-cent mark, which is absolutely astronomical. You start at 25 cents just a couple of days, 2 days before, and you end up at almost 80 cents. That is a tremendous amount of percentage gain. But beyond that, of course, we know Ripple has already so much liquidity in it that you're talking about billions and billions of dollars in shift here in just that coin alone. So huge amounts of gains, and now you're seeing a consolidation around this sort of low 50-cent mark. At any rate, it's an interesting theory. I don't know if I fully agree. I definitely see there being some FOMO, in that big spike that sort of came up and just dropped from 58 cents all the way up to 79 cents. But I just don't know if I believe that it was just fully organic, this pump from, the Xrp announcement up to PNC and Coil. I honestly believe that Ripple might have had some part in helping push this jump, this astronomical rise. We'll just have to see. These are some of the events that you can't quite explain in the cryptocurrency markets. You just have to cast a sort of suspicious eye on what's going on. At any rate, it's really holding these gains. We'll see how long it holds these gains. Hopefully it does, and that would be very encouraging for me, and I think the entire crypto community, to know that the big coins can have these dynamic jumps right now, and that might mean that we're headed into an exciting Q4 of this year. Let's hope so. We also got word from Charlie Lee, the infamous founder of Litecoin. He's sort of going to bat here in defending Litecoin, which I think was pretty well needed, as Litecoin's come under a ton of scrutiny since he sold. He said essentially there's a lot of efforts to suppress Litecoin and to spread FUD. He said that the truth is Litecoin is still hugely differentiated because of its huge mining community, and it has $150 million of ASIC hardware protecting it. That is true. But the question is there a tremendous motivation going forward for people to keep mining it as Litecoin slips out of its sort of edge as the faster Bitcoin, which it was sort of known as, but now we have so many faster payment protocols, so many faster cryptocurrencies that are really being transferred in just a amount of seconds. So while I think Litecoin is still really an interesting and will continue to be a cryptocurrency that stays in relevancy, I just am not sure how well it competes with some of these other faster payment protocols like Stellar Lumens and Ripple. He also defends himself and says that he works on Litecoin full-time, and that proof of that is that he's tweeting about it and that they're putting out new updates. I honestly think that Litecoin, it was an interesting coin for many years in the cryptocurrency space, but I do sometimes struggle to see how it fits into the sort of ongoing forward-looking cryptocurrency industry. I personally don't hold Litecoin, and I felt like this was an interesting conversation that I've had really off camera a lot of times about Litecoin. And now that I'm hearing Charlie Lee sort of speak to the FUD, it's not so surprising to me. I think it was very necessary. Anyway, you guys can let me know, what do you think of Litecoin? Let me know in the comments section below. We also have word that Antpool, which is owned by Bitmain, has just partnered with the Houston Rockets. That's right, the Houston Rockets, the NBA team, is now partnered with the cryptocurrency mining pool, which is owned by Bitmain. Of course, this isn't tremendously surprising, as Bitmain just opened their American HQ in Texas, in Houston, so this makes a little bit of sense. They're sort of cultivating a little bit of local goodwill. At the same time, they're a globally recognized brand, one of the more sort of prominent NBA teams and one of the more prominent sports teams for that matter, and so I understand that this could be a logical move here, but I just find it very interesting to see the sort of fusion between pop culture and what is a very sort of walled off techie world of cryptocurrency, and we're seeing it before our very eyes. We also have word that 0x will be launching their non-fungible token swaps, and they're going to be getting into blockchain collectibles. I think that this is huge because blockchain collectibles and non-fungibles, I think, are going to be their own world, their own real excitement. As much as baseball cards and collecting items has been a huge thing up to this point in society, everyone's seen paintings with like numbers on them, 1 of 100 or whatever, and we know how much that adds value to know that something is rare and that it's scarce and that you have something special. But on blockchain, we actually know that you can do this in a very legitimate way, and you can verify actually how rare your items are. So I think for the older generations, maybe they won't care that much, but for the young generation that value rare digital items, this is very exciting. It's something that we're focusing on in our own project, and it's something that I do believe is going to hit hard with young millennials and of course the Gen Z. I think that that's going to be the real pop-off of digital collectibles, are the Zers, as soon as they start entering the workplace in more mass. Obviously, some Gen Zers are already in the workplace, but as they start to gain more economic power, I think that this is going to be a huge trend that explodes of digital collectibles. It makes me even more bullish on 0x. I like them a lot. I'm not saying to go run and invest right now. I'm just saying it's a good sign from a business development standpoint to be looking at blockchain collectibles. And finally, we have word that Coinbase has landed their second headquarters in Portland. Pretty interesting move, obviously. If you want to get Bitcoin and some coffee, head up to Portland. Not much to say here. It just shows that there is really a powerhouse in Coinbase. You've heard of Amazon adding a second HQ, years and years and years down the line, but now you're seeing Coinbase move into it. They probably got offered some really advantageous tax incentives to move to Portland. They'll probably be creating a lot of jobs up there and adding to the local economy. So it's not so surprising, but at the same time, it's an interesting move, and it just shows how rapidly Coinbase is expanding to become a true titan of the tech world beyond just cryptocurrency. Well, that's it, FUD Nation. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, leave me a comment, smash that like button. If you're not subscribed to this channel, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button and hit that little bell notification. That way you're made aware whenever we put out new content. I'm Elio Trades, you're watching FUD TV, and I'll see you very, very soon on the next episode.